This video is going to cover the keyword research for your product. In this video specifically, we're going to cover why keyword research is important, where to find your keywords, and how to choose which keywords you should include in your listings. So I've just written a brief sentence at the beginning here, saying that keyword research is vital for organic ranking on Amazon FBA. A well-optimized listing will contain relevant search terms throughout. So the reason I've written that there is because keyword research can often be overlooked. People will just go ahead and start writing a listing which looks good, it's well written, and it may well convert sales. However, you may be missing out on a few tricks to increase your organic rank and the SEO of your page. So that is the most important thing for the keyword research. The reason it's important is you want to use the terms which customers are actually going to search for on Amazon to find your product and then buy. So that is the main ranking factor on Amazon. A lot of people talk about all sorts of different things that help increase your organic rank. The primary way you rank your product is through people searching for your product, using a particular search term. Go ahead and click on your listing and then buy, because that is showing Amazon that your product is relevant for this particular search term. Now, what we want to do in this video is start to build out a list of keywords, all of which are highly relevant, they're searched in high volume, and they convert into sales. So that's the purpose of this video. And I'm going to talk you through a good example, a bad example, and then how we can go ahead and get your keywords. So this could be quite a long video if I don't keep it short and sweet. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So here's a good example. This is actually the one we use for the images. That's why I've chosen this one. And the reason it is a good example for your keyword research is you can see throughout this listing, starting with the title, that it uses all different types of searches, keywords, and phrases customers would use to find this product. So sometimes it doesn't look particularly well written when you look at it like this, but what you will see is there's lots of different keywords included here. So obviously you've got water bottle. Now that's going to be a very, very well searched term. It's going to be very, very high volume, but that means it's also going to be very competitive. So what we want to do is dive down a little bit deeper and start looking for more longer tail phrases. So you can see here, they've actually duplicated, they said 1,000 ml sports water bottle. So this in itself could be a search term. People could use that. Okay. They could also use water bottle with motivational time. That is not going to get anywhere near as many searches as water bottle. But if you can rank for that and become organically at the top of the search results, so in these ones here, these are all organic rankings. So you're not having to pay for advertising by people clicking on this. That is the goal of your keyword research, is start to identify these longer tail phrases which we can include throughout our listing, and then in turn in our PPC advertising as well. So there's a good example. As I said, I'm going to keep this short, but here's a bad example. And this is, it's not exactly the product we looked at in the main images video, but this is bad example because it's very short, doesn't provide any real information, and they're essentially just relying on the fact that they've got a big brand name. So we don't have that, unfortunately, unless you are a big brand or you're well known. Even so, you're unlikely to be at the level of Camelback. So a lot of people are just simply searching in Camelback and the products will come up. So unless you've got a lot of brand awareness already, you need to start using all of these different types of phrases throughout your listing to increase your organic ranking. So the next thing that we're going to cover is where to find your keywords. So we can start to formulate a list ourselves of the types of phrases we think customers are going to use to find your product. But a better way of doing that is actually going across to Amazon and then searching through the top sellers. So if you was to type in water bottles, this is the top sellers. This is actually under cycling water bottles, but it gives you an idea. So these are the top sellers. And what I want you to do is go through the top sellers. It doesn't have to be in order. Find the listings which are most similar to the product that you're going to sell. I want you to pick 5 to 10 listings out of this top seller guide, and then we're going to add them to individual pages like this. And then we're going to go ahead and use a tool called Cerebro from Helium 10. Now, I've actually included a detailed guide from Helium 10 to go alongside this video. So this is going to walk you through step by step everything you need to do to actually conduct this research. There's going to be a written guide to go alongside this video, and then I'm going to create our own guide just touching on some of the key points that I highlight in this video. So check out these guides for a few pointers to specifically point you in the direction of what we're talking about. I've also included a link to Helium 10 if you're not already a member. I believe there's a free trial period and a discount to get started, but it is an absolutely fantastic tool and it's really vital for your keyword research in particular. So there's lots of different tools. I believe they started off with 10 and they've actually got a lot more. And the one in particular we're going to use is called Cerebro. And that's what they call a reverse ASIN tool. So what it does is you go through, you pick out your 5 to 10 best sellers or your most relevant competitors. You pull out their ASIN, so you scroll down to the additional info section, highlight the ASIN, and then you start to copy and paste them in there. You can do up to 10, I would say 5 at a minimum. To speed this up, I've actually done it myself. I've essentially just taken the top 5 sellers here, I've copy and pasted them, press search, and what that's going to do is that's going to bring up a full list of all of the keywords that these products, these top 5 sellers are ranking for. So that's going to be every single term that they are being displayed for in the search results organically. So for example, water bottle, sports water bottle, these are all going to show up here. There was a lot more. At the moment, I filtered it down to 2,477. And the reason I filtered that is because there would literally be tens of thousands if I didn't. What I want you to do is just add on a couple of filters. So these are all the different filters that you can apply. What I want you to do is go to the position section and in the maximum put in 50. So this is going to show you all of the searches that they are ranked for between 1 and 50. So for example, this is search term 1 or organic ranking 1, should I say, and then 50 is going to be down on like page 2 or 3. So that's going to pull through thousands of listings. And the reason I've done that is this is a very high searched product. However, yours is likely to be more niche than this and you might not get that many searches, but we want to make sure that we're only searching for the top ranking products. I've also put in another filter for the word count. So the minimum amount of words I want to have included are 3. So for example, water bottles will not be included in this list because that's just going to be too competitive for us getting started. If you've got a huge budget or you're in a smaller market, you could reduce that and only have 1 or 2 words. That's absolutely fine. But if you're in a bigger market or you're starting with a smaller budget, you want to be a little bit more specific in the actual words that you're ranking for. So that's why I said a minimum of 3 words, and that's going to bring us some slightly more longer tail keywords that's going to be easier for us to rank in. So put some filters on for only products in the top 50 within the positions and only those with a minimum word count of 3. And if you use a very, very competitive niche, you could potentially go to 4. And of course you could put a max on it, but I wouldn't worry about that. And then I want you to filter the actual results by the search volume. Now the search volume essentially shows you how many searches there are for this term per month. So Air Up Pods gets 25,749 searches per month. So I want you to find the highest searches because these are going to be the ones that we want to start ranking for. Again, if you're in a very competitive market, it may be that you need to filter these because there's going to be so many people trying to compete for these listings. If it's very well established like water bottles, you're never going to rank organically for these sort of terms from day one, and it might be something you want to revisit later. So you could just scroll down the search volume and find some that are still high volume but are a little bit less competitive. And you can also start to look for 4 words. But I want to try and keep this video quite simple because it can get a little bit complicated when you start to dig into keyword research for the first time. Now, once you've gone through this, you can actually download this into a CSV file so you can export the data and you can start to filter it and go into more detail. As I said, I want to keep this quite simple and straightforward. So that's what we're going to do on this occasion. Once you've either download it or you can do this manually by essentially just open up a sheet or a spreadsheet, and I want you to create 3 different tabs. So the main keywords are going to be the keywords that you search through and you want to rank for. So you're going to focus on those throughout your listing and potentially in your PPC as well. 1 to 30 is just going to be these top 30 products. So you're just going to include those, and we're going to copy those into that sheet there. And these are going to be the longer tail ones. I've got some examples of these, so we'll go through those in a moment. These are going to be the longer tail ones, and you could just put a little filter on for that by putting, potentially a minimum word count of 5 words. And as you can see at the moment, there's 2,477 keywords. If we apply that filter, it's brought it down. Oh, excuse me. I'll put 5. I'll put 2 instead of 5. So apply that filter and it's brought it down to just 543 keywords. So if you want to be a little bit more specific, these longer tail keywords are going to be very useful for you. And as you can see, they're still selling in very high volume, 19,000 searches, 7,000 searches a month. So what I want you to do is, let's just move this back down to 3 keywords. Go through these manually. And the reason I say that is it is a bit of work. Yes, it's going to take some work for you to do this, but the good thing about it is most of your competition aren't willing to do that work. So if you can put in the groundwork now, it will really pay dividends later when you start to sell your products, start to rank it, and start to advertise. And what you can do is you can actually delete these by pressing these here, because some aren't going to be particularly relevant. For example, let's say we are selling a cycling water bottle, air up pods. If you know what an air up bottle is, that is essentially a tasted pod that goes alongside it, so that's not relevant for it. Chili's is a brand name, so we perhaps don't want to include that. And dog water bottles for walking, this isn't a dog water bottle. Start to delete those that aren't relevant and start to take those away from your list. And then you'll just be left with the keywords which are most relevant to you. So for example, you want to include water bottles with straw. Now that could feasibly go into the long tail section. Okay, so I think I've actually used that as the example there. So you start to build out your long tail keywords. You could also, as I say, we're just going to copy the 1 to 30, so that's not a problem. But if you decide this is one of the main search terms customers will definitely use to find your product, copy it in there, and these are going to be the ones that we're going to focus on initially. The 1 to 30, you can focus on those at a later date, and the long tail keywords we're also going to want to try to include in your listing where we can. So what I want you to do is just go through this and start to add in all of the search terms which are relevant to your product, up to 20 different search terms. So we'll just keep going through. If it's a collapsible water bottle, we'll include that. So we just keep searching down, finding the search terms which are most relevant to your product. So you're obviously going to know your product very well. What are the words, what are the searches customers are going to use to ultimately search and buy your product? So again, toddler water bottle, probably not relevant. But if yours, again, another one with a straw, if it was for kids, you can include that one and just build out a full list of keywords in the main keyword section. And then what I want you to do is also build out a long tail section as I described. So for example, a lot of your terms might be only 2 or 3 words. What I want you to do is build out as many keywords as you can that have 4 or 5 words in that search term. So let's find another example of that. So, water bottle kids, that's not a long tail term in this sense because it's going to be searched in very high volume. What I want you to do is find something like this. Water bottle with time markings. That is a long tail term because it's got a lot of different words in it. It's more specific. So instead of just having water bottle, that's a short term, water bottle with time markings. If that's the exact product you're selling, that's the exact search term that you want to include in your listing. So you want to add that into your main keywords and perhaps add it to your longer tail as well. And the reason for that is we want to start adding them to build out this title, build out these bullet points, and throughout your listing you want to include all of these types of terms. So when someone's searching through, they're finding terms that are relevant for what they're looking for. It's also telling Amazon, okay, this is what this product's all about. This is how customers are finding it, and this is how customers are buying it. So we won't go into how to add them to your listing at this time. However, that is what I want you to do, to manually search through, do some keyword research, and build out a list of main keywords, the terms that you definitely want to include in your listing, and your longer tail keywords, some that you also want to spread throughout your listing, and then the 1 to 30. These are going to be the absolute highest searches. We're also going to include that when it comes to building out your listing. So that's essentially how I want you to do it. It does take some manual work. As I said, your competition will not be doing this to this degree. What they'll probably just be doing is just copy and pasting all of them, and maybe they might use something like ChatGPT and include all of them in your listing. But that's no good. For example, if you're trying to sell cycling water bottles, but you're actually ranking for dog water bottles, because that's just going to confuse Amazon's algorithm, and you're going to be ranking for the wrong terms. So I hope that makes sense. I know that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour, and it can be a bit complicated when you start building out and looking at Helium 10, but just build out a list, use some common sense to make sure these are terms that you would use to find your product and your customers will as well. And then in later videos, we'll look at how to actually add them to your listings. Just remember, there are the guides, the keyword research guide and the particular Helium 10 guide to go through. But just as a quick reminder, make sure that you're using some filters to start to reduce the amount of keywords that you're searching for. And then the hard work really comes in when you start to delete the different terms that aren't relevant to you, and then ultimately you'll just be left with the most relevant, highest search terms for your product. All right, good luck with your keyword research. Once you've done that, you can get down to the exciting part of actually building out your listing, but it is absolutely vital that you do this first.